And back to the ANC elective conference matters now. Will the party overcome its new challenges? We are joined now by Moloi, a former chairperson of Inkosi Bhambatha Region and nominated as a candidate for the NEC. Mr. Moloi, thank you so much for joining us this evening and welcome to Newzroom Afrika.
Thank you very much to this unprecedented moment of visiting your studio. It is indeed my honor to be present here and to be engaging and conversing with you.
No, we appreciate that. Getting straight into the issues, the party seems to be facing a number of challenges, some new, others old. And you've recently stated that you believe that the scandals surrounding President Cyril Ramaphosa are normal in politics and will not determine the future of the liberation movement. Can you unpack that statement for us?
Well, firstly, I think that is a matter for a farmer. I'm a farmer myself. But politically speaking, as it is lightly acclaimed in that regard, that particular issue should not make some of us behave like we are lawyers or legalistic in any way. Certainly I'm not one of them, and have therefore very limited interpretations on the matters that relate to it, legally speaking. But as it relates to the political implications of it, and some of the elements that may affect the broader scope of social impressions about, one, the leadership, two, the organization, and of course, three, the country as led by the leader of society, namely the ANC, to which we are all members and leaders. From that point of view, yes, it is a matter of our time, but is no different from matters of other times, which have been our time, right. Since the new dispensation, that any leader at the helm of an organization such as the ANC, in particular, in the recent time, will always be in the spotlight. And this particular issue is one of those. So with time, those issues tend to evaporate, and the matters that relate to such examples are of all other former presidents, save for Mandela era. So that was our dawn scenario. So all other presidents and future presidents will be followed by matters of particular kinds, and therefore to be taken in such a way, and it should be viewed in such a way, in my view. But as for the ANC, it has the capacity to address such issues and definitely to resolve it in a manner that is not despicable of the ANC to resolve matters of a very complex nature. That is, if this one is one of those that are complicated. Right. But it does provide political opportunity in terms of expressions of opinion on matters of leadership race. It's only a pity, in my view, that it has come at a time coincidental to the National Congress coming. And that particular coincidence, I think some are harvesting in it. Some, of course, are not harvesting in it. But only the future will tell us how much harvest has been.
So then, what would be your take on the recent events of the ANC then disqualifying Tony Ngeni and Bathabile Dlamini in terms of them becoming NEC members?
I'm not a member of the NEC. If anything, I'm an aspirant. If there are the resolutions of the ANC, NEC, at some particular point in time, during the course of preparation for conditions under which the conference will be held, and including principles that must be upheld in the expressions within the NEC, I presume that is the case, and maybe it's an implementation of that. Of course, the renewal is a resolution of the conference that we took, or that we held in 2017. It's one of those aspects that occurs. If this is one of the implementation stages, then it is an implementation of a conference resolution. But from a social transformation point of view, and from a social cohesion point of view, despite the resolution and these matters coming into that equation, I should think that if they relate to previous incarcerations, in this instance maybe of a criminal nature. I think we do have a law that states that it is incumbent upon the country to reintegrate such, shall we say, former offenders back into society and to appreciate their growth and facilitate their growth back into society. I don't know to what extent it is impacting on that. And it is my view that we could be impinging on that particular statement of law in our rules, that it is important to reintegrate people back into society and to give them full status of participation. And that, I think, will be a matter for debate.
Most certainly. Mr. Moloi, we will be taking a break, but we will continue with this discussion. And now we continue with our conversation with Lucky Moloi, a former chairperson of Inkosi Bhambatha Region and nominated as a candidate for the NEC. Mr. Moloi, thank you so much for your patience and for staying with us. Now, before the break, we were speaking about some of the scandals that could potentially have a political impact on some of the members of the ANC. Do you believe that the morale of the ANC and the public towards the ANC is low?
Certainly not. There are ups and downs. For any product that is new, it will always have its high. And as long as there is no renewal along the way of improvement of a product, design, the product will surge in popularity. Similar to the ANC, it will have to, along the way, make some kind of an upkeep, political upkeep of itself, be it in the form of membership renewal, membership recruitment, product policy offerings, policy implementations, and other societal cohesion issues, whatever they may be, that as long as it does not improvise. And now to improvise on that, and many of some of those aspects, that is why the ANC will require to bring in new brains within the ranks of higher structures, to then articulate further on some of the political innovations that may be required, including implementation, and including to impress, different from other impressions that have long lasted as profiles, standing profiles of the ANC in terms of high-ranking officials, as it were. And hence, constitutional periods such as the one coming next week are important milestones to do just that, and then assist in that regard in a political image of the ANC in terms of the social standings it might have to acquire going forward.
So, Mr. Moloi, if you then say that the morale is not low, how do you reconcile the overall vote share that has dropped by 16.36% in the 2011 and the 2021 municipal elections?
Style of leadership. Okay. Contributes highly. If it was not that, we wouldn't be changing CEOs to improvise on customer expansion base. Similarly, with regard to political institutions and political organizations, the one we have, the style of leadership matters more. I'm not saying, as we speak, it has contributed in that sense, in terms of the current leadership, but what I'm saying is the style of leadership is always the barometer of how much we can motivate society to continue to follow us. It's a matter of following.
Now, you are among 200 people who are nominated for a position in the NEC. Do you believe that candidates who form part of the NEC, who will in turn become members of parliament and possibly run certain portfolios, should they be elected based on a certain track record in terms of work on the ground, especially when it comes to creating vehicles that are impactful in communities? I mean, you ran a KZN region and you know what it is to work on the ground. How important is that as opposed to just having branches nominate someone to be able to form part of the NEC?
The unfortunate thing is that conferences are matters of popular contest. Now, popularity despite it being discouraged to be the manner of profile of the capacity of either members or of leaders, and more so of aspirant leaders, it is, however, impossible to cut that out wholesomely. And therefore, you get hoodwinked sometimes, if not many times, by people who rank on the basis of that. And there are many such. And hence, in my view, it would have been, if it was one of the things that renewal is based on, it would be based on who are you, where do you come from, where have you been, and so on, as opposed to I know your name,
so
which is where we are.
Should we not then change the popularity contest concept to hard work and what one has done in the past, to move away from what you mentioned earlier, that the leadership style of bringing down a 16.36% of overall voters over 2 municipal elections? It's
something that if we were able to raise our hands and be pointed at many times at the conference floor, certainly from a hand such as mine, it will come through. But of course, we are in the midst of 4,000 people in that regard, and your views may not resonate to an ululation of some description, and therefore inscription into what was resolved. But it is one of the things that we cannot fail not to look at. A basic employment procedure looks at these things. And why shouldn't we, in the election of leadership, fail to look at some of these things? Because the ANC I have been member of has been looking at these things. Now, as to when that decline came through, if it wasn't, people like myself would have long been in higher structures. But because it has been like that, hence we've only come through now. So there has been that decline there. I can tell you in the list, there are people who arrived yesterday, and I need a list of 200 people. Now, as to what they have then been doing, what will they do, heaven only knows, but they are in that list.
So you being on this list, should you make it into the ANC, NEC, what impact and what change do you believe you could bring to the party?
We are contributors to the collective. Of course, it is the extent to which one can influence within that collective that one's views can carry and therefore find expression in the form of implementation going forward. That's the only way, and that is how we work. Individualism is not part of us, but individuals are a part of the collective and not vice versa. So I wouldn't stand and appraise myself as would be somebody that would individually come with innovative ideas. There's plenty that we will harvest from the conference, and ours will be to find ways and means that are much more clearer and much more clever, if so, in their implementation. More importantly, it is the implementation. Without that, there is no popularity of any description that the organization can unmask. I think we have come a little bit lower on the media front. The ANC has been able to do many things, many of which are unprecedented in this country anyway, but they have not found expression on the ground.
All right, Mr. Moloi, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon and for giving us some insight with regards to the NEC of the ANC and for the 55th elective conference taking place next week. Thank you so much for your time.
It has been my pleasure, and I think we look forward to that particular conference.